So today, as I said, we're going to talk about innovation and growth. And you know that when we spoke about it before, I sort of asked you a few questions, didn't I? We start with Jim's fault, and I said to you under the G that firstly, it's very important for us to identify what it is that we're trying to build. And I didn't really, I suppose, spend too much time on why you're trying to do that. And when you have the inevitable issues and problems that we do in business, the one we had today, for example, it's so useful to have a why. And in the same way as with your body, where, sometimes you think, well, I just don't want to go for that walk, or I don't want to not have that donut or that glass of wine. And your why, if your why is, a set of abs in that case, it might just not be a strong enough why, and which might not be enough to motivate you to do, to do the walk or not have the wine or whatever it is. But exactly the same thing happens in business. If you get to a point in your business where you've lost your way and you're building it and you're going through the motions and you don't actually remember why you were even doing it, and you start thinking, well, it's sort of like it's what earns me money. And then you have this other little voice going, well, you could earn money other ways. You really do lose your drive in your business. And so part of defining the business, in terms of the size and the thing you're trying to build, the next thing is the why. Why do you want to build this? And your own reasons why are very, very legitimate for you, because they could range from any of the 6 human needs that we talked about. Inevitably, you'll find that they are connected to your 6 human needs, because people run businesses for all sorts of things. They run businesses that don't even make any money. Why do they do that? Because they feel that they're making impact, for example. So that could be a contribution driven need. Maybe it is making really good money, but they hate doing it. So what are they being driven by then? They're being driven for their desire for security and certainty. So they'll be driven by the first human need there. Maybe it gives them a great platform to be, the person that's a successful business person, or they get to sort of meet lots of people, or they get to be on stage. So maybe you're being driven by significance. Maybe it means you meet loads of people, and therefore you're being driven by variety. Or maybe you just learn so much during your business, in which case, obviously, it's progression. But an awareness of why you're doing it is really important, because when the going gets tough, which it always does in business, if it's a good why and it is something that is still relevant and drives you, you will get through the problems, no matter what. You will have that driving force within you. If, however, the why has ceased to be and you can't actually remember why you're in that business anymore, that is a very, very good time to either get out of it or do something different in the business, so either stay in it and innovate, or and adjust it in all sorts of ways, which we'll come on to, or you start another business, because we're only here for one life, and our business is only one part of our wheel of life, as I've talked about before when I've talked about all the different segments. And it is possible to tick a number of these boxes through your business: the significance box, the certainty box, the variety box, as long as you find the right one. So this is something that I really wanted, and we can talk about it after we bring Ollie in, because I just wanted to rattle through these points first. But why were you in this business, and why are you now? And are they different reasons? And very often you come across, and I've had this my own experience before as well with, the recruitment business, where why was I in the business? Because I saw the potential and I knew I could do it, and, it was going to be very lucrative. I suppose when I think about it now, I was drawn to it because of variety. I wanted to do something else, progression and learning, because I wanted to learn more stuff about being an entrepreneur. I suppose certainty, because obviously I knew that that would be very lucrative. Variety, I do. So there's many reasons why I was drawn to that. But then there got to be a time where it just sort of seemed to be numbers on a spreadsheet. And, you know, all the sort of fun went out of it, really. And then those whys ceased to be, because now I'd learned a load. You know, I'd become sort of known in that industry. So I wasn't getting the variety anymore. And what I'd realized is that the impact that I wanted to make, you know, it was very difficult to make. And you could place someone from £100,000 a year to £110,000 a year, and they don't even give you a thank you. They're not really even happy about it. And so you weren't really getting that, for me anyway. And so, you know, sometimes your why can be very different, and it is really good to take a check of the why you're in there, because that is a really good part of the question that you have to ask yourself when you're trying to build it. Once you've answered that and you concluded, you know, I'm in the right business or I'm not in the right business, and if you're not, how you could make it the right business again. And these are, you know, big questions, hence we do journaling. The next thing is, you know, what is going to create growth in that business? Because if it's all about what you're going to do and, you know, who you're going to speak to and how great you're going to be with the service you deliver, there's going to be a limitation on your growth. So you could have gone to great pains to produce a lovely spreadsheet on growth, saying that you want to build an empire and you want to have 10 offices and you want, you know, this many clients and they're all going to spend this much, and etc., etc. But then, you know, what's going to create the growth? Who's going to create the growth? If it all does boil down to you, then you are limited by time. And so you're going to need systems, or you're going to need collaborators, or you're going to need some form of innovation. You know, what is it that's going to create the growth? And answering that question is really, really important. You know, if what's going to create the growth is the reputation, for example, then branding is going to be absolutely key. If you take, you know, what we do, some of the stuff that we've done with young people, we've really created an amazing brand in that. And then what happens is people are attracted to you. It could be you're the only person who does a certain thing, you know, or it could be that you're doing so much of it. So you're doing it, he's here now, you're doing so much volume that that's going to create the growth, even though you're not sort of doing anything different. For some reason, you've managed to create a huge amount of volume. So these are some of the questions that you might want to ask in terms of what can create this growth. And I suppose this is the last question I'll leave you to think about before we bring Ollie on, and I'll just interview him for 10, 15 minutes, is, you know, the difference between a job and a business. Because if this creator of growth is going to be you, then you could end up with, you know, a tougher, more difficult job than you've even, you know, ever had before. And, you know, the whole point of creating something then would be lost, because you're not there being the creator, you're there being the doer, the worker. And if no one else can do that beside you because of a particular skill that you have or whatever, then you've got to think about ways and systems to make sure that that isn't just about you. Unless, of course, your vision of your business is just about you. So it's all sort of linked. I mean, if you're clear on where you want to get to and why you want to get there, the next thing is, well, where are you now? A very clear picture of where you are now and what is the gap. How significant is the gap? How are you going to close that gap? Are you going to sort of put a growth plan together along the lines he said? I'm going to ask him for that, for example, but that's the sort of financial aspects of it. But what is it you need to grow as well? Because he said, you know, one of the things he said was look for more products and services, add more products and services. You might say it's that. You might need to win more contracts. You might need to, I don't know, you know, recruit a management accountant or whatever it is. Getting some really key things down about what it is you need to grow is really, really important. Whether it's the marketing funnel to get more leads in, whether it's to convert more of the leads. So being clear on that is great. And then the other thing I wanted you to think about is about the competitive advantage. What is it about your business that's going to give you that competitive advantage? And this could be not necessarily like we were saying, you know, that it's got to be a brand new invention. I mean, and you are actually on the more of the inventor side, because, you know, you talked about the products that, you know, you like mixing up and testing, and that's very much on the inventor side. But, you know, it might be that there's other things. You might see it, like he said, about his R&D things. You know, they're packaging it up in new ways, and I could feel him itching to want to tell us that this is not the same as other R&D credit firms, and that, you know, they have found a different way of doing it. But you know, I'm sure it's the messaging that he will give that will enable him to sell more of them, for example, and the way that he's going to package it up and market it. But, you know, the fact is, it's a very boring HMR scheme. It's funny he mentioned it, because when I was telling you about my little victory, I wasn't actually talking to him, I was talking to somebody else. So I may revisit that tomorrow. But, you know, I'm sure that's a Me Too business, but he has got these new sort of propositions around it. So sometimes these differentiators may not be very tangible. It may be about how you're offering it. And then the other thing to I wanted you to think about as well is about your own personal differentiators. You know, you saw with him the sort of person he is. You could just imagine, can't you, the sort of very focused, flying around, high energy. You can imagine him taking pretty good action, never being sort of blocked. So I imagine it was quite hard to find that patent, but he would find a way, and he was very direct and he got it. What's your differentiator? You know, what is your way of actually getting things done, making that business grow? For, you know, I don't know, but, you know, Jane, you've got a huge amount of knowledge now about network marketing and about, you know, bringing people into your team. So what is it about you that's managed to do that? Because obviously that's the thing that you want to be really promoting, if that's your main skill, and you might not actually even know what it is, or if it's your main learning point. What is it about you, you know, that is going to really differentiate your business? And the same with you, Katia. You know, obviously there's many dental practices, isn't there? But what is it about yours and about you in particular that makes you one successful? I think one of the things that I'm just going to mute you, Anne, if that's all right. One of the things I think you said, Katia, was when you told us that lovely story about, you know, the manifestation, and the big bonus turned up all of a sudden out of the blue. And that was very unusual for dentists to achieve that, but you did. So what is it about you? So the same with you, Evelyn, and the same with you, Anne, and, you know, Annabelle, Marion, and me as well. What are the things that are, you can sort of see it easier in other people sometimes than you can in yourself. So really give yourself, and these are all things to journal on. You know, these really, you're not going to be able to answer these. You have to dwell on these things. And so part of that SAVERS thing is not just sort of ticking the boxes to say you've done the mind work, but that's our opportunity to pick the book up. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but, you know, I'll just write stuff, and sometimes it all flows out, and sometimes there's like not really that much to say, but these will give you some things to think about when you're writing. When you are thinking about your business as well outside of yourself, what do you need in that business at this point? But what do you not need? Now, this could be what or who. You know, who have you got in the business or who have you not got in the business that you need? Equally, what have you got in the business, or who have you got in the business that you don't need? He was saying things about, you know, silly, as he called it, contracts with suppliers, but it could be, you know, particular types of people, or it could be, I don't know, whatever the overheads are, or whatever the influences are. You know, what could you discard right now? What can you take out of your diary, for example? So what things are going on in your business that really don't need to? And then getting on to the next thing I wanted to ask. You look lovely, by the way, Anne, in your black outfit there. Just got a glimpse of your very shapely, fit-looking figure. Did anyone else see that? You have to watch it on the video. And then the next thing is about your clients. I wanted you to think about the right client for you, because you can wow your clients when you get the right one. You know, in his case, it was, he said, you know, didn't he, find something different and find that client and make yourself indispensable. His was hospitals, and boy, did they have a need. They had 35% death rate, and they were probably accepting that that was okay, or that was par for the course. I mean, how terrible. So what are people accepting at the moment? What are your clients accepting that maybe they don't need to? Who is the right client for you? And then another one that I wanted to ask you about, to think about as well, was, and Tony Robbins talks about seasons a lot. And as you know, we've applied the whole concept of seasons to this program. But, you know, people can be in seasons. People can be in seasons in terms of, you know, your business knowledge, but businesses definitely can be in seasons. And there's a lovely little graph here, which I wonder if I can just quickly drag it out. I want to show it to you. Oh, where is it? I want you to find this graph. Or isn't it? When you see something. Oh, here it is. The 10 stages of life cycle of a business. And it talks about businesses almost like it talks about a person. This particular theory, which I absolutely love. It talks about, I don't know if you can see that, I'll show it to you. I'll send it over to you. Can't quite see it on here. It talks about the birth of a business. You know, if you're at the birth of a business, you know, you think about, you know, that you're taking risks, you're just coming into the unknown. You're basically just working to meet your own needs. You're basically doing a job. You're managing yourself. And then it more talks about infancy, toddler, you know, a toddler. It talks about management in crisis, business walks, talks on its own. You began to build a management team, but the business still relies on you. Everything's accelerated. You think about this toddler running around and falling over and, you know, things just going wrong in the business, but basically there's a lot of energy there. So the business might be in toddler stage, you know, and then you become a young adult, and then you become a mature adult, and then basically you become aging, and then basically there's the death of the business. And, you know, there's a lot to, are you doing the right thing at the right time, picking your moment as well. I mean, I really would love to ask Ollie, but, you know, it wasn't the right time to ask him. But wouldn't it have been brilliant if he'd invented something like that just prior to COVID? Can you imagine now what that would be like if he'd have sort of carried on with that business and then maybe extended into masks and gloves and God knows what? And, you know, you could just imagine, couldn't you, what could have been, and probably the owner of that business has done that. But there's a time for everything. And sometimes you can be running an amazing business, but the timing, like, it's either it's past it or you're too early. I mean, when we took apprenticeships across to the US, for example, we were just too early there. Everyone thought it was a brilliant idea, but we couldn't get people over the line spending money. So we were too early there. But there are businesses as well. You know, you imagine businesses now. Well, let's say, who's going to open a restaurant now? You know, one of the people that I really wanted to bring on to speak to you has already come up with a most amazing alternative to restaurants. I won't say too much about it because I want to interview and send you the video. I really wanted him to come. Good job he didn't come on because Ollie has so much brilliant stuff to say. But, you know, someone could have been setting up an amazing restaurant 2 or 3 months ago, and it's the wrong time. And it will always be the wrong time because now we've completely changed our habits as a nation as to what we will do in terms of eating out. You know, I think that we will probably change for good as well, not just during lockdown. There will be some things that stay in place forever. So the timing of what you do in business is really, really critical. So those are some of the things that I wanted to leave you with on the growth, for you to sort of start to beef out the growth part of your plan, because you did start documenting the growth, didn't you, in your business plan? And you sort of did, you know, a number of statements, but now is the time to beef that out even more. But I don't mean it needs to be lengthy. I mean, you might write piles and piles of it in the next few days as part of your journaling. But in the end, the same things will be repeating, and you'll come up with a clearer statement of what you're trying to do next with your business. But an important thing to also think about, because of where we are, is what he said now, you know, bravery and really going for it. And thinking about, wow, you know, this could be an amazing opportunity. Some of the things that I couldn't do because I didn't have bricks and mortar, I didn't have, you know, maybe the money available to sort of be traveling up and down the country or going overseas or whatever. You know, so many of these barriers have been eradicated because we're really all in the same boat in terms of communication. And the number of technology platforms available now are amazing. And when we come on to talk about marketing next week, marketing funnels, and we're going to go into a lot of detail on marketing funnels next week, you know, what you can do with, as he just mentioned about his lead funnel, is phenomenal in terms of getting value and valuable leads in at great, at scale, and without having to have any salespeople anymore. It was only 5 minutes ago that we were paying salespeople to go knocking on doors, and also, paying for their lunch times and their cigarette breaks and their travel and their car and their, and their phone and everything else that we were paying for. And now that's all gone. So very much we all need to be thinking about that when we're creating the next opportunity for business. So we've got like 10 minutes. In terms of journaling, what I really hope gets its way to you are these lovely things. So I got picked them up, and
I've got it here.
Oh, have you got it? Yeah. I got one for me as well, and also for Mariam. But they're coming their way, and they really are nice. They're lovely quality books from Smythson as well, with your initials on and everything. So